our mind. We've lost our mind. It's only a matter of time before we find we've lived. It's only a matter of time before we find we've lost our mind. We've lost our
It's only a matter of time before a tsunami hits the Northwest. Why is it missing from FEMA's risk analysis? Now, this is actually a really big deal. And from the people I have talked to, from the experts I've spoken to over the years, I, of course, have had a long-winded passion with, of course, the Cascadia subduction zone. I have done a lot of work with it. I have actually traveled to speak with people on this. I have talked to Chris Goldfinger, which many people know him as the kind of top name for this because he's got his own, of course, his Netflix shows on it. And then, of course, TED Talks on it. And I had over an hour-long interview with him a few years back. I have talked to him. I have talked to oceanographers that are actually out there on the same boats with him, actually checking out all of the different stuff going on the Cascadia. I have talked to several geologists. I've talked to several folks that are at the local colleges that are actually building evacuation routes on the West Coast. Cascadia subduction zone is a guaranteed 9.0 earthquake when it, or I'm sorry, a 9.0 earthquake when it happens, and a tsunami. So when this happens, it's going to be the biggest disaster ever. So what is this all about? This is actually stating that it has been carefully neglected from serious reports, like they're basically not trying to put the data in with everything else. It's very, 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 very weird. It says the National Risk Index, the NRI, was supposed to help U.S. communities reduce their risk from natural disasters, but it is fatally flawed. It says that scattered like driftwood along the coast of Washington state is a string of native reservations, tourist havens, and faded timber towns whose names bespeak their geography. Long Beach, Westport, Ocean Shores, the Shoalwater Bay Indian Tribe, some lie on nearly naked sand spits with a single point of connection to the mainland. This is what I have talked about. There are several towns that have one way in and one way out. They are out on outlets or inlets that are essentially just long strips of land with water on both sides. In some cases, water on almost all sides, except for a single road that actually goes to the mainland. Now, some of these, even if you have no traffic, it could take you 30 to 35, 40 minutes to get out of that town if you are driving. Whereas when this earthquake happens, if you are lucky enough to survive the earthquake and you're doing good, about 15 minutes later, there is going to be a tsunami, which is going to put many of these places completely underwater. They have zero chance. When this actually happens, it's going to be, I would say, 100 times worse than what happened in Japan. And the reason why is some of the towns that are mentioned are tourist attractions. Now, no matter what time of the year, these places are going to have a lot of people there. On a peak summer, they say that they have had up to 500,000 people in Ocean Shores and that small area there. Now, there are a population of 5,000 that live there. And when I have actually talked to that population, some of these people did not even know of this existing. They did not know that Cascadia subduction zone existed. The local police that I spoke to there, they said they had been, the one officer I spoke to had been there almost 3 years and said he had not done a single drill on it. Said that he doesn't even actually know if they have a plan for it. And I don't think they have a plan because there is going to be absolutely nothing they can do. If they're an ocean police, again, I think there's 5, maybe 6 cops. I don't know if there's 10. It's a very, very small town. Normally, when there's no tourists there, they have zero plan because guess what? There's not going to be anything they can do unless they have Aquaman on their side. They are screwed. Even the tallest point in the town, which is not a building that anybody can go up the stairs to, it is a tower, just a regular tower that has some sort of frequencies coming out of it. Even if you climb to the top of that tower, that is still going to be 20 feet underwater, according to most estimates. And those estimates are on the extremely low end. In Moclips, there is a special place In fact, that place was 125 feet tall on top of limestone cliffs. And that was the evacuation point for the nearby Mo clips. But now they have said that they have changed that. Why? Because the jetty off of Ocean Shores is actually going to launch the water even higher than that. So they believe that 125-foot place that they were going to take everybody and have everybody drive to is actually going to be underwater as well. That means that it may be as high as 125 feet and higher in some places in Washington. To put that into perspective, that's 12 stories high. That's as high as a building in a downtown area. That is straight out of a movie. That is absolutely ginormous. I don't know how big the ones, and I should have looked this up, but as far as the ones that hit Japan, I don't know if those were in some places 40 feet, 60 feet, whatever it was, 15 feet, 30 feet. But this one is going to be far worse. And it's an earthquake that is going to be felt all the way from Seattle, all the way down to the beginning of California. If you are in Portland and you are in Seattle, it's not like you're going to feel a 9.0 in Seattle and you're going to feel a 7.0 in Portland. It's not like that. You're going to feel a 9.0 in Seattle and a 9.0 in Portland. That's what's so nuts about this. This isn't a normal earthquake that goes out like this. It's an entire fault line, which the United States, the Juan de Fuca and the North American plate are going to snap. And it is going to send a wall of water heading towards the entire West Coast. Now, we know they're prepping for this. We've even found even more crazier stuff. There has been evidence lately that there have been plenty of signs that this thing is about to go. Not to mention the military that I have talked to, the military/FEMA that I have talked to. One of the liaisons said that they believed that this was going to happen years ago. Shortly after I talked to him, a few years back, they had Cascadia Rising. It was one of the largest drills in history with, I want to say, 300,000 EMT, police, all sorts of folks all the way up and down the West Coast. And they're still not prepared for what this is going to be. We are completely behind in preparing for this. And this is absolutely offensive. It says, again, Washington State's Emergency Management Division calculates that nearly 90,000 people live or work in the other coast's inundation zone, and there will be another 86,000 more along inner waterways that waves will make and take longer to reach. It says on a summer day, they could be joined in the danger zone up to 248,000 sightseers, clam diggers, and other visitors. Western Washington University's Resilience Institute has calculated that many as 28% would be unable to reach higher ground in time to escape the tsunami, and 18%, 60,000 people, would be crushed or swept away to sea. Up to 60,000 people. Do you remember when I covered that initial FEMA estimates were 15,000 people would perish? 14,000 people died in Japan's or something around that. And I'm sure that number went up by the end of it. But that was in one of the most prepared places in the world for earthquakes. This is absolutely nuts. And this is what we're going to talk about tonight. Before we go any further, I do want to remind you, make sure to protect yourself against EMP and support small news by going over to marfooglenews.com/EMP. This is a device that can be wired into your cars, vehicles, trucks, motorcycles, boats, pretty much anything that runs, and it will protect you against not only EMP, but CME from the sun. It helps our independent channel. We are completely on our own. We're not a multi-channel network. We don't have a multi-billion-dollar company behind us. We have the Foogle fam. So thank you guys for going and checking those out. It's very easy to put in. Anybody can do it. If you can do 3 wires, then you can handle this. Go to marfooglenews.com/EMP and make sure to use the code MARF. I'm going to include sources for today's show over on the website. And of course, the full list and bibliography is available for every show right there. Let's bring my co-host/internet brother, Dex James. What is going on and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
So do you want to go over a little bit further on? It tells us about what is going on and what are they leaving out here? They're leaving something pretty important out in this report.
Yeah, it says the online tool the federal government has built for mapping and gauging the disaster risks is actually oblivious to the danger of the Cascadia subduction zone. In other words, they don't have any information in here or very little. I think they have something, but it's not actually accurate. So the updated NRI announced in March assigns only a relatively moderate tsunami risk to, for example, the Quinlet Indian Nation, even though the Washington State Geological Survey predicts it will be buried under 30 to 50 feet of water. Now, earlier you had asked what the height was for the 2011 uh, tsunami that hit Japan. At the highest point, they said was 130 feet. I think that was the peak at one point. But yes, so this is some serious amount of water when you think about these massive mega tsunamis, and what hit Japan and something like that, or even bigger, hitting, our west coast, or everything across the west coast there where the subduction zone is.
And when you end up doing this for the bureaucratic side, when they put relatively moderate, then that ends up making it extremely low priority. Now, from the folks that I have talked to, and from the scientists I've talked to, from the folks that are actually involved, from military folks, they know it's worse than this. Why are they doing this? I wonder if it's because they are absolutely broke from sending money everywhere else, and they're trying to basically kick the can down the road with this when they should be making evacuation points and vertical evacuations for almost everybody on the West Coast. This is absolutely insane, and I think they know that, oh, well, it could happen in 2 years, it could happen in 5, it could happen in 200. They make it sound like it's going to happen in 200. They make it sound like that this is going to happen way later. There is information, I guarantee it, that tells them that this is way worse off than they think it is. This wasn't discovered until less than 30 years ago. They built whole metropolises on the entire West Coast, not realizing that there was a Cascadia subduction zone there. They didn't know about this. This was only found out in the last few decades. So this is something that is going to absolutely rip society in half. If you saw the movie, what is that? This is the end, or is it that This is the End? The one on Netflix where it shows Seattle covered in ashes and stuff. That actually has a kind of a portrayal of it being covered up. And that looks like it's like post earthquake, right? That's not even, you're not going to see parts of those towns. New Seattle was built on top of old Seattle. In 1907, there was a great fire in Seattle that actually burnt down the old downtown area. Now, it wasn't like it was today, but it was a big, it was the main city. That burnt down, and they actually decided, instead of, tearing it all down, they actually just built on top of it. They also built on top of extremely soft soil. So now they're actually looking at the high risk of liquefaction. So when the earthquake happens, the entire ground underneath is just going to turn to liquid, and everything is going to just go right down. The waterfront, they said in the Nisqually earthquake, which we had in 2001, they said if that was just a few points higher, if it hit a 7.0, that the waterfront would have possibly went right into the water. We're talking about all the piers, the historic Pike Place Market, the whole thing would have slid off into the water. I mean, we're talking, I can't imagine if this happened. If this happens during a tourist time of the year, forget the 500,000 people that are, staying in all of the Westport, Ocean Shores area. Think about Pike Place Market. Think about all the hotels downtown Seattle. Think about all of the brick buildings in downtown Seattle, Portland, and all of the unretrofitted buildings. All of those are going to collapse like nothing. The 6.3 that we had, it absolutely tore up all of our old brick buildings because they're not retrofitted. They don't have a steel frame inside of them. They don't have rebar. They are just brick. They're going to crumble like if you took a graham cracker and just squeezed it in your hand. That is what our entire West Coast is going to look like. And it's no joke. This is something that, of course, they're going to now say, oh, it's not a big deal. It's relatively moderate. They're full of crap. They're basically taking money from here over to here. They were having white trucks roll around, and they were secretly retrofitting a bunch of stuff because it is a big deal. They understand that this is going to put the economy in most, obviously California has a huge spot in the entire country's economy. If something happens to all of California, then it's going to be really, really bad for our economy, let alone Washington with, of course, Boeing and everything else. But who knows what, and mind you, it's like now you see Amazon and other companies trying to get out of Seattle. Why do you think that is? They know something that we don't. And if you think if you're on the East Coast that you're safe, well, you're going to feel these. And they're actually preparing in 21 states for this. Why did they do this? Are they also doing this because they are not trying to add or not trying to bring attention to all of the data that is coming out on this? The different holes where they see stuff coming out of the bottom of the Cascadia. They believe that there are bubbles saying that it is grinding and things are going on. Some believe it is stuck and that it is about to snap. This is going to be the largest disaster we've ever seen, humanity has seen. I believe that it is going to be as bad as the Boxing Day, only it's going to be here in America. Imagine with all of the other geopolitical things going on right now, with if we have that happened, with all of the other threats that are going on, which mind you, they now believe that this could be something that could be triggered. If any of our enemy countries that say that they have tsunami torpedoes or any of the countries that could hack us and already knock down our grid, imagine if they waited until a natural disaster to do that. I couldn't imagine. Maybe they thought about it beforehand and they already brought half of their army here. Who knows? But it would be absolutely nuts. I don't. The ones that are really affected and the ones that are really offended, you are seeing all of the community leaders come out on this. You're seeing the scientists come out on this, and everybody is screaming at them saying, "What are you doing? Why are you putting this at a moderate risk? Why are you putting it this is a relatively moderate, whatever this is?" And especially all of the native tribes. If you're in one of these native tribes that's affected, you should be very loud about this. You are at the top of the list of people who are getting screwed. Your kids are getting screwed. Everybody's getting screwed on this. So I guarantee you this has something to do with how they shift the money to fixing the problem or to trying to prepare. Japan prepares. They'll sign a check even if it doesn't affect them. If it only helps, the money that they spend today goes towards helping their great grandkids and not a penny affects them now, they will sign a check and they will do it. Here in the United States, we wait until it's broken and then we fix it and forget about the people that perish because they don't care. We're run by big corps. So again, this is really, if you go and read this, you'll see exactly what I mean. People on the West Coast need to prepare. I think it's very strange that they are doing this. And I'm pretty offended as somebody who lives in the Northwest. And I think that especially some of these communities, these tribes, you might actually have more power than the regular people because you can get loud about this and say, hey, this should be a way higher priority, especially the schools in this area. They've already moved schools, mind you. They know that this is coming. They're moving schools. They're moving evacuation points farther out. They are retrofitting things. They are doing things that say that they know that this is not something that's 500 years out. So hopefully it does not happen before we have all of this other chaos go off. But again, just pray that it doesn't. Join us over on Marfoogle TV for the last 24 hours of events. We have all sorts of different events happening around the world. Join us on our sister channel, Marfoogle TV. You can find the link right down below in the show links. Go to the website, marfooglenews.com, and you'll find that. Dex, we also have some pretty exciting things in the works, and some of it is relating to earthquakes and predictions about the West Coast and East Coast. Possible secret fault lines that are now coming up.
Yeah, I guess I'm gonna have to start worrying about quakes now.
Yeah, and you're in Georgia, so if people think that if you're on the East Coast you're safe, just wait. We'll be talking about that pretty soon. Make sure to tune into our channel and subscribe if you're not subscribed already. Thank you. My name is Adam. Of course, Dex. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Much love. Great job, brother.
And you guys, we'll see you over in just a few minutes over on our sister channel. Be safe, be prepared, and Marf out.
only a matter